want you to take a look here at something that made me laugh this week, and we'll start off with Obamacare is constantly in your press. It's sucked up a lot of airtime, and of course now we've had the last 2 weeks of the right wing losing their minds over this, minor videotape of somebody who was a major architect of Obamacare suggesting the American people needed to be nudged and massaged into this, putting it nicely. Of course, they say that this means a lot more than we think it probably does in this panel. We'll have a bit of a conversation about that, but I want you to watch something that kind of, for the rest of us in the world, encompasses this discussion, and it happened on Fox News. So this is basically what happens here. You've got Tommy Chong sitting with the gang at Fox.
Tommy, these videos, Josh Earnest tried to downplay it and say, for the GOP who wants to push these videos that are 6 and 8 years old. Well, they're not 6 and 8 years old to the American people, right? Because this is the first time the American people have been exposed to the words of Jonathan Gruber.
But to me, it's just another attack on Obamacare from another angle. It sounds like Benghazi all over again.
Well, no, it's an attack on the American people for how, quote, stupid we are. All right, so whether you like Obamacare or not, Tommy, you have to admit it's not good to lie and deny that you know somebody when there's footage and tape of you claiming to know them.
Did I remember a guy named, Mitt Romney said something about 47%?
Stay on topic, Tommy. Stay with this issue.
I'm sorry.
Is it okay to lie and get away with it like they're trying to do?
It's called politics, of course.
This is a conversation that happens all the time in America, which, of course, is this simply. It's the idea that the double standard of what's a lie, what's not a lie. I mean, my favorite part of this whole conversation, to be honest with you, is the idea of people who backed the war in Iraq getting really upset about, oh my God, somebody has lied to us. This is the worst offense ever. Of course, in this case, it's to give people health care. I want to open this up to the panel a bit here. As I say to you every time on the show, like, watching this from outside the bubble, it's mind-boggling. Like, I can't get over the fight and struggle to say to people, we want to give you health care. Going through this, thoughts?
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Tom. No, go ahead.
Okay. I find it funny that the more damning person praising this guy, Gruber, was actually Mitt Romney. And he did this long speech and thanked him for all his hard work. And what they're mad about is being called stupid, because they are. They buy the right-wing nonsense all the time, and now they're butthurt because somebody actually called them out on it. Yeah, we have to change tactics. Yeah, we have to kind of be like Republicans and call something, a little different to get it passed. Yeah, we had to do that. Oh, that's what politics is. That's what the turtle does all the time and never gets called on it. Okay? Somebody actually admitted that they actually played politics, and it happened to be a Democrat. Democratic Party member. They're butthurt about it. And it really drives me absolutely nuts that when the Democratic Party is actually being political, they're like, ooh, evil, they're bad. And when, the Republicans do it, they get a pass. And I mean, it's typical right-wing shell game. Do they have a plan? Do they have any plan to fix this? No.
Yeah. So Gruber's. I'm gonna call him Gruber for the sake of this story. Gruber's a dick. That's really the crux of this story. They're playing the clips of him calling the American people stupid, and he's basically being more of a dick than Frank Luntz is, while doing the same thing, changing the words and the phrasing and all that. The only interesting thing, the only two interesting things about the Gruber story are that one, he totally admits that he massaged this law so the CBO would give it a better score, which if Fox News was an actual news organization, they might want to focus on that. because they were actually saying that all along, that they changed the way it was written so that the CBO would read it in a different way. And number two, that this guy, like the government, everybody keeps pretending they don't know him, but like he's been paid by he's been paid by a million government agencies because he worked on this law. He's been referenced by everybody, including Mitt Romney. Like he is an integral part of the healthcare bill, both when it was Romney's bill and when it was Obama's bill. And he just so happens to be a dick who wants to throw it in people's faces. So, like, it's not like a major story. We all know that every major piece of legislation is sold with false promises and outright lies. I mean, the Patriot Act protects American freedom, number one. Like, that's George Bush's line. Like, every law is lied about. The names are lies, and, like, that's just the way it is. So if you're going to get mad at Gruber and get mad at Obama for using Gruber, then like you just don't understand politics. And obviously, Chong does understand politics.
Well, one, I want to take issue with everybody calling this a health care bill. This does not provide health care. It provides access to health insurance. That's a very different thing. Secondly, the Republicans are well aware of how to grease the right machines to get what they want. What they're doing, or what the right is doing, and it's the same tactic that they always do, is they punch you in the face, and you're supposed to be cool with it, and then when you slap them, they cry bloody fucking murder. So when things are done unto them, they have a problem. It's an issue. Oh, my God, I can't believe they did that. We should talk about impeachment. Oh, my God, shouldn't this guy get fired? They make this huge, big stake. And because the Democratic Party is such a bunch of fucking wimps, they're probably going to fucking either weekly circle the wagons or legitimately have a firing talk about Gruber or some type of throw under the bus type of method to handle this situation. So it's like today is Thursday, and I'm not surprised that this shit is going on. But I think the issue that at hand is that Obamacare itself is not doing what the American people need for it to be done. And the Republicans don't want to talk about that because they don't give a fuck about whether or not you can have affordable health care where you can just walk into a hospital and get the care that you need. They want to make sure that the insurance companies have their pockets lined, period, point blank. So they're going to come up with these stupid, asinine issues of lying, which they're going to turn around and do about something else 15 minutes from now, and then muddy up the conversation so that we don't focus on the fact that we're not really getting health care, people. We're getting health insurance. And it's like, thanks, but fuck health insurance. I kind of want health care because I still got to pay a premium, and I'm still not getting paid enough money to even cover the premium that you forced me to get into in the first place. So it's like the real issues are not being addressed, but this whole, lying thing is just like a big thing for no reason.
I want to push back a bit on that, but first I want to show the clip that's going to sum up where my pushback comes from. This is when they try to get Tommy Chong on Fox to at least, really double down on, well, you got to admit it's stupid. Let's take a look at that.
Well, and I think that it deserves to be asked an open-ended question, just why do you think that Jonathan Gruber said that this administration preyed on the stupidity of the American people to pass this health care law? Because otherwise it wouldn't have passed, is the assumption.
And Gruber was brought in to woo Democrats as well, Tommy.
I think you have to define what stupidity means, If you are opposing universal health care based on rumors and lies, then that is a stupid way to be, So let's define what part of the stupidity he's talking about.
So this is the question that I have for you, which is, yes, you're right. Yes, Tommy Chong is right, and being the good Canadian he has his hard time getting his head wrapped around the idea that folks don't want universal health care. But I kind of want to push back to you that as Democrats in the States, you look at public opinion polling, you look at these things, whether you want to talk about manipulation, whatever you want to talk about it, but it's hard to sell, universal health care to Americans, and it was really hard to sell, even pushing the goalposts to where Obama did to get a much better situation in play. Do you not agree with that?
It's hard to sell for the people that are actually going to... Like, that's one of the things that I have a difficult time with polls and all of this, is because people who take polls are people who actually give a shit about polls. And it doesn't really extensively look at the culture of America. If you were to sit down and talk to somebody, just shooting the shit, and tell them kind of a utopian idea of what they would want healthcare systems to be, they would tell you something that's very much similar to universal health care. But where the manipulation comes in is that we are very susceptible to things being turned into a pejorative. So it's very easy for us to get a negative connotation from things while not being well informed on them. So, I mean, you can just look at it at how people talk about it now. You guys are calling this health care. You know what I'm saying? Healthcare is being able to go into a medical facility and get care. And that's not what Obamacare does. It gives you access to the businesses that will fund you getting healthcare. So it's like even the term itself, we're rather ignorant to that entire concept. So that's where I'm coming from.
But that comes from the fact that when you tried to sell universal healthcare to America, America did not embrace that. Like, at one point, we have to kind of live in the reality that people have to either come out and vote or get engaged for these things. Like, we could talk about system and root causes a lot, and it's not that you're wrong, but if you're Barack Obama or you're a Democrat, what do you do?
Right. Well, I personally don't think that Barack Obama or any of them had any intentions of... Because in the beginning when he was running, Hillary too, it was universal health care, single payer. That was the battle cry that they did when they were coming in 2008. And there was a lot of people who were for that. I remember Bill Maher and Jon Stewart really pumping up single payer, single payer. That was something that everybody was kind of just on board with. And then when it came to that little summit, the healthcare summit that was going down in 2009, single payer, universal healthcare wasn't even mentioned. And then those specific words coming out of the information apparatus wasn't uttered anymore.
But why is that, do you think? What I'm trying to get at is, why do you think that was? What I am suggesting to you is that public opinion just wasn't there for it.
Well, public opinion was there for it. When they were first talking about single payer back in 2000, that's one of the reasons why people came out to vote for him to be president. He ran on that when he was Senator Obama. So it's like, people were for that. That's how a lot of, you're shaking your head, Sean, but a lot of people were for the idea of single payer. That if they weren't, Hillary Clinton wouldn't have uttered it when she was trying to get her presidential nomination. It's only when things...
Sorry, I'm just, when you're talking about uttering it or promising, but like how, you know, how a bill becomes a law, to go into that, like, this is what happens, obviously. There's concessions. Right. So what I'm trying to get at is like, and we're going to talk about a little bit later tonight, too, with America and the progressives that we think they're out there but somehow don't seem to ever vote. This is where I like, in the reality of the system that you had, like, speaking as a Canadian who has universal health care, I was shocked to see how many ways the Republicans easily scared. Like, you had people in your country believing that Canadians were, like, making penicillin in their bathtubs, basically. Like,
right. But notice when that was going on, because before Obama was president, one of the most popular documentaries that was coming out was Michael Moore's Sicko. So the whole idea of universal health care, single payer, that was in the social sphere. People were talking about it, and people were very receptive of it. Where I see where you're coming from, where people are becoming lackadaisical about universal health care and not fighting for it, but a lot of that stems from the fact that there was a time where it was all the rage and everybody was talking about it when everybody wanted to be president, and then that talk stopped. And the the new goal that was presented to the American people was no longer single payer. It was essentially what Mitt Romney did in Massachusetts. So when they were legitimately sitting down, when it was time to roll up our sleeves and get the work done, single payer didn't get invited to that party. That summit that they did with the Republicans, that wasn't on the table. And then you started seeing a change in rhetoric where it was death panels, oh my God this, oh my God that, and that's when the Democratic Party kind of shriveled up, and instead of really trying to jam down their throats single payer, they were trying to jam down the throat Romney care at the time.
All right, so I'm just going to let Sean, obviously wants in here, so we'll get his opinion on this. So Sean, let's try to stay on somewhat of a tracker. What did you disagree with?
I'm going to stay on topic. They did mention universal health care in the campaign, but they were not running on single payer. Like, the reason Obama beat Hillary on health care was Obama was for a public option when he was campaigning, and was for no mandate when he was campaigning. And that was the difference. Like, they were always running on a split system, the mainstream Democratic candidates. Like, Kucinich and all these other guys were running on single payer. But Obama, if you go back to the tape, it was always public option, no mandate. And Hillary Clinton was mandate, and she was wishy-washy on the public option. So, like, that was the two, like, conflicting plans. Like, none of them were. They were saying universal health care because that polls better, right. But the Republicans have always, and this is like Frank Luntz again, would always hit them back with government-run health care or socialized health care. So, like, universal polls well because universal health care sounds wonderful, but government-run sounds like worse, and the government being your doctor and all that. So to Dan's question, it's about messaging. Like, people think universal health care and socialized health care and government-run health care are three different things because they poll at three different approval ratings.
But that goes to my point of turning things into a pejorative. That's like my issue is that Americans. It's not like Americans don't want health care and they're not willing to fight for it. But when the message that's getting told to you is the thing that's good for you is a pejorative or something that's nasty, and then the alternative is more of the same, it changes how people are going to react to what they want to vote for. So when these candidates were running for president, they were saying all this sweet shit, but when it came time to actually do something about it in that 2009 summit, that's when those pejoratives like universal health care, single payer, public option, all of that went out of the window, and Obamacare started to come up. That was the whole reason why he adopted Romney Care in the first place, because he thought that adopting a Republican plan would be sweeter down the throats of Republicans when he came forward with it in that summit, and that just didn't happen.
Well, he promised Romney Care in the campaign. He promised Romney Care with a public option. And the funny thing is like, back to Gruber, or Grubber as I like to call him, and like everybody's getting down on him for lying. Like, both candidates in the 2008 primaries lied to beat the other guy. Mitt Romney ran against, not Mitt Romney, John McCain ran against Mitt Romney's mandate. And do we believe that John McCain, had he been in office, if he did anything on health care, it wouldn't have had a similar mandate to Romney Care? Like, everybody ran against the mandate because that was unpopular, and everybody ran towards covering more people. The Democratic side said words like universal health care, but they never said like single payer, except for the more left Democrats. And everybody likes to sell everything. That's what a campaign is. And like, I don't know, like, I get it, Grubber's a dick, and you want to bust his balls, but like, it's not a huge scandal. Like, find me one major piece of legislation that didn't get passed without lies. I mean, look at the original cost estimates for Medicare under Lyndon Johnson. Like, everything is passed with horrible, unbelievably anti-factual lies and statistics. That's the way American politics works. Tom, get in there.
Oh, I get you now?
No, Tom? All right. So before Tom decides to jump in on this, let's go to...
I'm ready to jump in on it. Can you not hear me?
What I'm trying to clarify here is, my point to you is that I actually agree with the Republicans. I kind of agree with Sean that the sales job is part of the American process. But what I really am getting at is I don't see how you do sell Obamacare without that sales process. I guess the bottom line I'm asking you is, do you think if there was a better salesman that the American public within the system that they're in, there was a path to getting universal health care for America?
I think if there's Democrats are shitty salesmen, period. That's why they don't win.
Wait, Haven, can you hear me?
Always fucking period. So
can you hear me?
It's kind of just well known that the Democrats as far as messaging.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, if the message was better, then of course, I mean that's essentially my point, is that it's not that Americans don't want this, it's just that the message that is coming out shifts and changes and moves away from the thing that they wanted originally. And we don't have a liberal party, we don't have a liberal apparatus that's willing to stand up and say and really push back on the opposite spectrum. That's one of those, is that once there's a major shift to the right, everyone's expecting the Democratic Party to move center and to get to the middle of it, when really what we need is an opposite, dissenting idea that's very much different from what the Republican side is trying to give us, and then come into a compromise. And that's not, people think that that's what Obamacare was a compromise, when really it was Obama adopting an idea that came out of the early 90s from the Republicans. Like, you can't really sell anything as a liberal if the product you're selling is Republican fucking product.
Wait.
I just want to point
can
out
you
that
guys hear
Obama did Obama not only lied to the American people in general, he lied to his base. He said that he didn't try for the public option because he couldn't get a 60-vote majority. And as I'm sure all of you guys know, the healthcare law was passed through reconciliation. So they could have tried for the public option. That was a core campaign promise, and he didn't even try it. It was never in the bill. The public option polled well. Even when they called it a government-run option, that took it down a little bit. But public option polled well. We could have had a public option inside Obamacare. Obama didn't want it, and some Democratic senators didn't want it. But you had enough, even through reconciliation, to pass it. That's just fact.
Yeah, but that
wasn't. We could have had some options.
That wasn't what they wanted. They didn't want public option. They didn't want any of that. Essentially, they did want something like Obamacare. They preferred it. If Mitt Romney were to have won, Mitt Romney would have implemented the exact same thing. So it's like they're essentially getting what they wanted. They never wanted public option or any of that to come to the table, which you can see because none of that was on the table when they were doing those negotiations in 2009. That wasn't even their intent.
So around the table real quick then, here's the question. Because of this and the fact that you have a lot more people now in America that are insured, whether we want to debate the semantics of what healthcare is actually, but the idea is now that people have the access, that it's at least better than they had before. Do you see this being a stepping stone to, do you think you'll get to universal healthcare? And Haven, go ahead.
I don't think so, because to me, how I see Obamacare is it's forcing more people to be in a system that's broken. So it's forcing more people to be customers of insurance companies and to be at the mercy of insurance companies. One of the things that Obamacare doesn't do is really put a cap on rising prices. So it's like they're kind of just forcing this thing, and people are going to get used to it because more people have access to insurance. And that's always nice to say that you have insurance and all of that. But actual health care, you have to experience that. You have to know what health care feels like to want it in the first place. And I don't think that Obamacare does that. It makes people know what it feels like to have insurance, but actual health care doesn't make people feel that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and in my opinion, it probably eventually will get there. We're getting more and more government involvement in the system, and it also depends on how badly Obamacare gets kicked in the teeth by the Supreme Court over this. No subsidies shall be handed out by an exchange, or subsidies can only be handed out by an exchange established by the state. Like, if the court cuts off 33 or whatever, 36 states, the ones that have federal exchanges or no Medicaid expansion from the subsidies, then like this law is going to have to be changed. And depending on framing, which always seems to work in Republican favor, but like if theoretically it worked in the Democrats' favor, they might get another shot at healthcare. So who knows? It depends how badly the court punches the law in the face.